American Studies, and we now would like to interview Professor John Jablonski, our visiting professor this semester from Ferris State University, United States. So hello John, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. But I'm an emeritus professor. I retired from Ferris.
Yes, thank you.
and this is my retirement work. So.
Thank you. So I'd like to ask you some questions about your stay, Debrecen experience, language, linguistics, things that you've been interested in in the course of your career. So what are these things? What are some problems that you've explored in the course of your career?
I think, let me start with my dissertation. The problem that I noticed was that students who got all the grammar correct on their writing were still not arguing effectively. And so what I did was to use conversation analysis to look into how people argue every day and how those argument patterns work their way into inexperienced writers' work and were ineffective in an academic context. That was one of the biggest concerns I had, and I've been following up on that consistently, and make every one of my writing classes a class about argument. And the reason for argument, even in work that is so not considered argumentative, such as technical writing, professional writing, business writing. And so that really got me started for the next 23 years of my career. Other problems that I see and I've worked on is second language interference. I've learned more about Hungarian and German by listening to students making mistakes in English than going through many of the classes. So that's always interesting. And the other, again leading with argument and composition studies, looking at the ways in which different cultures, and in this case I can only talk about German and Hungarian as opposed to American, how they go about arguing, and in many ways they are very different. So, for example, American argument starts with the thesis right up front. German argument hopes to lead to a thesis ultimately. And those are challenges and very interesting ones, which I think in the context of the Institute here are problems that probably some of the linguists here should look into.
Thank you. You're now teaching Old English in our bachelor's program.
Oh boy.
So what are some topics that you're discussing in this course, and how are your students responding to these problems?
You'd have to ask the students how they respond. I've got one or two who are very vocal and will talk and answer questions, and some who are not very vocal, and trying to get them to speak is difficult because they're not used to conversational or discussion classes in which they are expected to respond. Ultimately what I'm trying to get the students to see is how learning the history of a language informs how the language has developed to what it is today. And so rather than starting at just the beginning and going step by step by step by step, I don't follow the chronology. I will shift back and forth between how Old English said something or did something, how that transforms into what we do today, so that they can see why it is, for example, that we have words like foul, meaning dirty, and filth, meaning the thing that is dirty, and that goes back to the old Germanic forms of I, umlaut, and that sort of stuff, so that they can, when they get a class, if they're going into teaching, they don't rely on silly or uninformed ideas, saying, well, that's just the way it is. Well, no, that's not just the way it is. There are reasons why our languages have developed the way they have. So I'm trying to get them to see that you don't have to be chronological in looking at history, and that they should be engaged with the language.
Mm-hmm. So linguistics is often an abstract term for most people learning about language and languages. So how do you think people in general can benefit from learning about language? History of languages, syntax, sociolinguistics,
mythology, conversation analysis. I'm going to go back to German, to the poet Goethe, who said, wer eine Fremdsprache lernt, lernt seine eigene kennen. Means whoever learns a foreign language learns his or her own at the same time. And so that's, one of the things that why I stress to students learn another language. Linguistics gives us the opportunity to, whether it's theoretical, whether it's applied, whether it's semantics or sociolinguistics, it gives us the opportunity to analyze why it is our languages do what they do. And as my dissertation advisor said, that since human beings are the only animals that we know about who have language, animals communicate. Do they have language? That probably not, because they don't share the capacity to interpret symbols. So if we take a look at linguistics from whichever point of view, we are learning deeply about what it is that makes us human.
Finally, let me ask you about Debrecen and your Debrecen experience in general. So we know that you have a special relationship with the city and the university.
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us more why that relationship has become so special for you?
The people. In May, I don't know which date, I will celebrate the 31st anniversary of my first visit to Debrecen. And as you know, and as many of my friends here know, I came as an official American, as the cultural affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy, and I came here at the invitation of a Fulbrighter, Myron Simon, to get to know the people. Now, in those days, it was at the very best officially unpopular for official Americans to mix with official or unofficial, particularly Hungarians. In fact, it was against the law for me to do so. And so I guess I broke the law. But even at that time, although I was official, I was greeted with a great deal of warmth, hospitality, and something that I don't think any of the people in the embassy had, we were on a certain wavelength of scholar to scholar, professional to professional. And these folks got me to lecture, and that's when I knew that diplomacy wasn't the game for me, that I really wanted to return and teach and be a real scholar again. So that's why I went back and started my PhD work all over again and came back. And since those days, my relationship with my friends here has only become deeper. Some people have visited me in my home in Big Rapids. I have visited homes here in Debrecen, so we have a very close professional and personal relationship. What do I like about Debrecen? As opposed to Budapest, a city I really love, I think Debrecen is much more of a Hungarian experience. And that's why I say to my American friends, you should come here, because although Budapest is beautiful and I love it, it's a cosmopolitan city. And you're going to hear much more English spoken there. And you're not going to be greeted with the same kind of typical Hungarian warmth and hospitality that I get here. And, of course, the food is excellent. and the opportunities to use Debrecen to travel are just really good. So I could go on, but it would take forever. It would take a long, long time.
Thank you so much for the interview, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your stay here.
I intend to. Thanks.